Okay, here we are. Welcome to an episode of On the Wrist from Off the Cuff. To have a really cool update for you from the brand Vulcain. Originally founded back in 1858, they're a heritage revival brand, really best known for their cricket alarm watches and popularity with the U.S. presidents. Now, in terms of type of watch, this falls under two categories: a dive watch, as well as a chronograph. Now, some key characteristics across both of those. Of course, on the diver side, water resistance. Typically with some type of screw down crown. You want something that's tough, legible with a dive time bezel. And, diver's extension is always nice if on bracelet. In this case, you're going to have actually the bonus of also a 12-hour traveler's bezel. And on, in terms of the way that you're reading it, a little extra scale there, which I appreciate. Now, on the chronograph side, you're going to, of course, find external pushers to activate timing functions with multiple sub-dials to measure elapsed time, often featuring additional scales depending on that subgenre. And the subgenre would be diver in this case. Now, this is their Skindiver chronograph with that white dial and that kind of panda pale silver colorway, and it's essentially a chronograph variation of their 1960s Skindiver inspired Nautique collection, and that whole recreation line is pretty flawless. I mean, I own I guess 3 now technically, and they are amazing little skindivers. This is going to kind of be the upper apex because, of course, it is a chronograph variation. So the pricing is going to be actually $3,040 direct as configured on this top of the line signature bracelet. Or you could get it for just $27.50 if you were to opt for the leather strap. This review sample was kindly sent in by Vulcain free of charge for the purpose of this review. And recently, I actually first initially reviewed this on the Beads of Rice bracelet as it was a new release. But honestly, this signature Y-Link bracelet is special. So thankfully, Vulcain was willing to send me this bracelet to pair it with for a follow-up. So with all that said, let's go ahead and zoom the camera out, get this piece in hand, and take a closer look. Okay, guys, so this paired to this bracelet is just, for me anyway, so much more unique and just really gives it an extra visual punch. Now, of course, in terms of functionality, these are longer links versus that Beads of Rice bracelet, which actually I have right here. So if you do want to see it on the Beads of Rice, which is now safely stowed here, definitely take a look at that original review. Of course, Beads of Rice is going to be just inherently a much more pliable, flexible, and maybe even more comfortable by design. The nice thing is this is cheaper while it still does retain that beautiful toolless micro-adjusting clasp that you see here. But in terms of iconography for the Vulcain brand, this is just a very special bracelet. But for those of you who maybe are tuning in for the first time to see this watch, let's go over some of the details. Now, this has a 39mm diameter in terms of the case, but across the bezel, it's going to be 39.9. It's also going to be 15mm thick, and that is including the crystal. Now, it is a very common practice for brands not to count the crystal when they are showing case thickness. I like to measure with my own calipers ultimate height. And again, 15mm, including the crystal, is not thick for an automatic diver's chronograph. Again, of course, while the domed crystal does add some physical height, visually it's really not adding much, so I'm not too worried about that. This does not feel top heavy by any means. Now, it also does have a very nice and short 47mm lug to lug length, and you can see beautifully turned down in terms of those lugs, and nice thin mid case as well. Now, you do get the nice double domed sapphire with an inner AR coating. This bezel is friction fit, so in terms of on the diver's side, yeah, you're not going to get that clickability, but in terms of, let's say, the traveler's side, very easy to change by an hour increment, because instead of it just being your traditional style where on the outer track you're going to have, of course, the 60-minute counter, they even go to the lengths of adding a secondary inner track with that nice 12-hour traveler's bezel, which is very easy and very intuitive in terms of, you know, setting your watch for another time zone so that you can track it independently. And of course, the nice thing about these bezels that are friction fit is that you can center them. You know, it's just a little bit here, a little bit there. You get it going, and you know you can always get it, and you're not worried about it landing on the right click, which is, you know, a little bit of a nice piece there in terms of giving you one less thing to worry about. You can see it's not like it turns so easily you can really accidentally nudge it. It is going to be a more deliberate grab and twist when it comes to you actually adjusting that. Now, you are going to get this beautiful ceramic inlay there, and it does, because it is so high polished, you can see that it's picking up some of my oily fingerprints, so I'm just going to wipe that off of camera very quickly here, see if I can absorb some of that, pop it back here, maybe even dust it off a bit, just because this is beautifully designed, quite immaculate, guys. I mean, I think in terms of looks wise, this is one of the best big crown chronograph divers available on the market. Now, of course, the movement inside, which is an ETA, an automatic ETA, 7753 with a 42-hour power reserve beating at 4 hertz. Now, it's not the most impressive chronograph movement by any means, guys, but again, you can have this on the strap for about $27.50. So that's from a historical brand that still sells watches not super cheap. I mean, you know, they're selling their divers, you know, for a good amount. So you add a chronograph movement, they do have to mark them up over that. It's not like they are very similar in terms of the capabilities. These movements are much more expensive, as well as ensuring water resistance for a watch like this is, again, much more labor intensive as well. Now, the case back is solid. It is nicely embossed, as you guys can see there. If I can get the camera to give me just a touch of focus, there you have it. Very nice little scuba guy there. Let's see if I can, there we go. Very, very cool. And, you know, it's a bit of a bubble back, and, you know, I don't mind it one bit, guys. So, especially when you look at the curvature, how there's a beautiful undercut there, that's just going to equal a lot more comfort from that perspective. Now, some other nice things to notice, guys, getting into this dial, you're getting that pale silver sun ray effect. Panda style, of course, meaning that you do have the darker sections there for the subdials, looking like a panda's face. Also, no dates, so no dates to worry about in terms of setting it or offsetting it or anything like that. You know, what shape, where you want to sandwich out, something like that on this beautiful, really well-balanced symmetrical dial. So it's going to stay that way thanks to being a no-date watch. Now, the hands are polished and loomed, and they might seem black. Really, it's just because they are reflecting off of the black camera lens. So don't be fooled. Also, the room is quite dark apart from 2 different light sources, and of course, a reflecting board right off camera that's acting as kind of a fill in terms of, you know, that idea that it's going to simulate reflections, because you would be wearing this not in a dark room in real life. You'd be wearing this in a well-lit room surrounded by things casting various reflections on there. Now, this does have also Swiss Superluminova that does glow green. Unfortunately, I was not able to confirm the particular recipe from that perspective, but it does glow green, and I think it does a nice job. In terms of the water resistance, again, guys, 20 atmospheres or 200 meters, which is very, very nice. Of course, you're not going to want to try to actuate these pushers under the water, but it's nice to know with that screw down crown, you're going to get a nice bit of peace of mind just in case you get pushed in to the water at the wrong point in time or anything like that. You're going to have that protection. Now, the lugs are beautifully boxed, which is actually something that's different versus the three-hand variation, which is just going to mean that it's squared off, as you can see, in that very classic Skindiver aesthetic. So you're going to get that in 20 millimeters, which is going to make this a real strap monster. But I think on this bracelet, I just like it better than anything else. Now, this is known as kind of their signature stainless steel bracelet. It has single Y links that taper down to 16 millimeters. You have this 18.7 millimeter push button clasp that also does offer toolless micro adjustment. Check that out. You can actually extend it and then you can ratchet it in. I mean, it's like a little ASMR moment there, guys. Let's go through that again. Slow-mo. Ooh. Okay, maybe a little faster. Ooh, that's nice too. Ooh, yeah. It's good stuff. Okay, I'm getting carried away, guys. Getting carried away. All right. Very, very nice 10 position toolless micro adjusting milled clasp. The links again are slightly long, but it does give you equivalent to one full link of adjustability when you do have this going there. So very nice from that standpoint. Now, with that said, let's actually get this on the wrist and see how it wears. Ooh, okay, guys, check that beauty out on that signature Y-link. Absolutely gorgeous. Of course, if I get my wrist a bit too close to the camera lens, you're gonna notice quite a bit of perspective distortion. Look how much larger that looks. But if I keep my wrist nice and low, all of a sudden you're seeing the watch seem more centered. You're seeing the sides of the strap all of a sudden wrapping around my wrist. So I'll just keep my wrist nice and low and then just tighten up the frame here so that you guys can get still a detailed look, but just add a bit of a truer aspect ratio as how this may lay on your own wrist. And as you guys can see, even with that 47 millimeter lug to lug, this thing just sits beautifully. And it is, again, a diver's chronograph, and it is not overly thick. And I can appreciate that. I know some of you might be scared of 15 millimeters, but again, guys, it has a box dome sapphire. That's adding a little bit of physical height, but I promise you, in terms of visual height, it's not going to feel thick, or at least overly thick at the very least. Some people can be maybe a little bit pickier than I am. Now, yes, this thing wears awesome. As you guys can see, there's also some really nice details here. We're going to get that nice flat brushing, of course, done to a luxury-like level, as well as these high polished bezels. But one thing you might have missed are going to be these beautiful satin matte blasted sections as well. So you're actually going to get 3 different finishes that come together in a way that just impresses. Very, very nice. And I forgot to do a little action here. Of course, you want to see more of the Chrono action, you're more than welcome to check out the previous review on the Beads of Rice bracelet. So with that said, we'll get this off the wrist, set it for some loom shots, a light transition, and closing thoughts. Okay, let's go ahead and hit the lights here. Hey, as you can see, very, very nice. And actually, one difference on this versus the three-hand Skindiver is that it does have a loomed 12 o'clock pip. So very, very nice. On your standard three-hander Skindiver, it's actually just white paint. But the nice thing about that is it won't tarnish. In this case, you're going to get still a nice bit of contrast. But one thing I like to work in is going to be that ultimate low light transition, because you're not just going to be out in the middle of a field enjoying direct sunlight. A lot of times you're going to find yourself coming out of buildings, walking underneath overhangs, or just hanging out underneath the shade of a tree. So it's nice to see with these colors, textures, and finishes render like in less than optimal lighting. And you guys can see here, my goodness, the different patterns, finishes, little just ornate details come together on this piece and just give you a nice amount of liveliness and play while not compromising ultimate legibility. So very nice from that standpoint. I dig it. So with all of that said, we'll get into the closing thoughts, guys. On the wrist, Handsom retro profile, wears much thinner than the specs would imply. Very dialed in terms of those proportions. Definitely check site links for current options and availability. In terms of comparable models, guys, the Oris Divers 65 Chronograph, $4,600. And for, you know, $1,700 more or so, you know, it has 100 meters less water resistance. It trades the ceramic bezel insert for an aluminum one and downgrades to a standard non-quick adjusting clasp. But I will say that it does have an extended 62-hour power reserve, which is quite nice. But is it that much nicer in terms of the additional cost, guys? Again, well over $1,000 more expensive. So for me, guys, bottom line, as much as I love my 3-hand Vulcain skindivers, again, I own 3 at this point. This Chrono variation just does the same Skindiver family charm. Like, it still has that, which I dig. It just does a great job of elevating the platform, where I think it just does enough to differentiate itself while still retaining much of that family charm that I touched on. And, you know, again, as much as I enjoy this signature bracelet, the addition of the classic boxed lugs definitely makes this particular model feel like it really may thrive on a number of strap options. So I do like the way this looks on bracelet. I prefer bracelet, but with the boxed lugs, you really have a lot of options for straps that are going to look fantastic. Even if you're even going on the OEM side, I mean, you can get a really nice rubber tropic strap from Vulcain with beautifully matching hardware in terms of its fit and finish as well. You know, and you could put that on the classic Tropic. It doesn't have to be their in-house branded one. You could put it on a high-end sailcloth. I think this would look great. I think you even put it on like a rally type of strap, just because that motorsports aesthetic when you think about the Panda-dial. So let me know what you all think down in the comments below. If you like the video, please hit like. And if you're already, please subscribe for more content just like this. Thanks, guys.